We have been taught by Ursula and Olivia Newton-John the importance of communication and the body, and frankly in fiction, it's underutilized. Hey guys, it's Amy here, back again with another video. Many times in my videos I have mentioned the importance of body language when it comes to portraying your characters, but I never fully got into detail about it. It's about time I made a video that did. Because why bother having people talk when the body can say so much more? I love to describe and think about how a person acts before how a person speaks when it comes to creating characters. This is especially true to me as a community theater actor, and how a lot of the time I'm just sitting in the background and not saying lines as an ensemblist. And so the way that I'm moving and showing my character through my body makes so much more sense when I create characters nowadays. How they walk, how they speak, and even more. So this video is going to be covering all those different points that you can think about when you create your characters and the body language that they can show. But first, how about you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell? I post new videos every weekend on writing, books, and digital content for authors. If you're looking for a new and unique fantasy read, then look no further than the description of this video for ASTER'S CODA Exposure, my own novel, in which Abby Tacker must face an otherworldly blood feud after the mysterious death of her mother. But now let's get to talking about the body. This sounds like the start of a health class in early high school. First off, we're going to be starting off with posture. This is of course how a person would normally stand. This doesn't necessarily relate to how bad their posture is, although it can sometimes help. Because a person's personality does a lot to represent how they stand as well. Like how a shy character would be very closed in and they would often hang their head down, whereas a confident character, I'm going to be using a female body in this case to better represent it, would more likely be having their head held high and sticking their boobs out. Yep, now you see why I'm so weird. Their posture can also be reflected when they are standing and sitting. This could be how they're holding their legs, how they are standing, and where their hands are placed. There's a lot of different ways that you can work this from posture alone. The main way that you can think about it is if your character was being drawn for some piece of character art, what kind of pose would be their typical pose or their idol pose? A couple examples of me would be my D&D characters, because this is the chance that I most often get to make up new characters. My tiefling bard is very outspoken and sassy, so she's always trying to make herself look a lot bigger than she is, which is definitely something she needs to do because she is tiny. She's often got her hands either on her hips or folded, just to show herself as either very assertive and dominant, or she's very unhappy with things and is a little bit closed off. Compare that to one of my shyer characters. This one will be Kit. She often either has her hands sort of clasped next to her or very close, or she might have them fiddling with parts of her clothing because she can sometimes get a little bit shy and a little bit anxious. She doesn't directly make eye contact unless she really trusts a person. So that's a brief breakdown on what you can do with posture. Now we're going to move on to talking. This is not necessarily how a person talks, but it's how they use their body when they are talking. There are many different points in the body where this could apply. First off is obviously the hands. There are some people who wave their hands around like they're casting some kind of spell when they talk. I am sometimes guilty of it when making these videos. And there are some people who would rarely use their hands. They might use the way that they move their head instead, or maybe the way that they use their eyes. You can often go to a lot of stereotypes to work out what kinds of ways that a person may be acting with their body. Someone who's really excitable may be very likely to use their hands, someone who's stoic and tough may be more likely to just use head movements, and then someone who's shy may very rarely use eye contact to indicate how they're feeling when they talk. Pardon me, I burped at the end of that. It may also be worth noticing differences in their certain emotions. Maybe an excited person may be using their hands a lot when they're talking, but when they're very scared, they suddenly close up and like hold their hands to stop them from moving. The next thing we need to cover is walking. Now, having a different walk may feel a little bit like you're trying to make a sim character, but the walking that a sim character does is basically an over-dramatization of how a person may be walking naturally. An interesting point to think of is what part of the body a person would lead with when they are walking. Do they sort of walk with their head first, their feet first, their arms first? Because that kind of stuff can say a lot about how a character may be presenting themselves. If they walk head first, they may either be tired or inquisitive. If they walk feet first, they are rushed, they are hurried, they need to get to where they're going. Arms first, that's a very interesting one. It could be to do with them being very athletic. Shoulders first, they could be very tough, trying to show off muscles or sexual appeal. And even if it's just like a very regular walk, there are some very interesting ways, even with people that I know in person, and how they walk. And also where they place their hands when they're walking. For me, I always like to place my hands in my pockets. Some other people I know would have them hold onto a bag, actively use their hands when they're walking. There's a lot of different things that people do when they're walking that need to be paid attention to. Final point we're going to be covering today will be expressions. This is to do not necessarily with them making overt happy and sad faces, but this could be with how much they show their expressions. Some people may be trying to hide an expression at a certain time, but there could still be one part of their face that particularly shows a certain emotion. One of the more obvious examples is when someone's embarrassed that their cheeks turn red. Furthermore, when someone's anxious, there's a couple of ways you can show that on their face. This could either be their jaw going loose, going tight, their eyes darting everywhere, or locking onto something. It can vary between a lot of people. My personal favorite way to show expressions has always been eyebrows. Animators say that eyebrows are huge in showing expressions as well. Of course, your facial expressions aren't going to be that animated when you describe them, but it's a good idea to consider when a certain part of a face changes, and what kind of expression that could mean. And there we go. There are some basics of body language for you. Let me know any other things that I've missed by going into the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new around here. You can ring that bell to find out when I post more creative content. ASTER'S CODA Exposure, available for you now in the description. A perfect book for fans of Men in Black looking for a little bit of a fantasy twist. And you can also check down below for my Instagram, my Fiverr, my TikTok, and my website. Stay creative, everybody, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.